start off our new unit, I just want to take a second and think back on the unit we just finished. We just completed a unit on physics, which is the study of motion. So we looked very carefully at how things move, why things move, and how to measure movement. Now we're going to look at matter. Chemistry is the study of matter, and in order to understand chemistry, we have to start out by defining matter, just like when we studied physics, we had to define motion. Okay, for this exercise, you should grab a pen and a piece of loose leaf, because what I want you to do is to write down your answers so you can go back and check them when you're done. What we're going to do is you're going to put a heading on that paper, just your name and period, that's all you need. And I want you to write at the top of the page for a title, Matter Self-Quiz. So you can call this Matter Self-Quiz. So you're going to put your name here, period, whatever. And you can call this Matter, hopefully your handwriting's better than mine, Self-Quiz. You want to do this on actual loose leaf, not on your iPad, because you're using your iPad to watch a tutorial right now. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do, I think, 10 different questions. So you can number it 1 through 10 on each line. And for each one, I want you to tell me whether or not the thing pictured is or is not matter. In some cases, I can't show a picture of it, so I'll just tell you what it is. So I just want you to write down, is it matter or is it not? So you can write yes and no, but just write what it is. So for example, if the first picture is a chicken, which it will not be, but if it were a chicken, you would write chicken, yes, that's matter, or no, it's not. And if the next picture is, I don't know, a balloon, and you don't think that's matter, then you would write no, like that. Okay, so get ready, pause until you're ready to go forward, and then we'll run through all the pictures. Ready? Okay, first picture, me. Am I or am I not a form of matter? Write your answer down. You write Mrs. Stracuzzi, that's the object that you're being asked to consider, and then dash yes or no. Do you think I'm matter or do you think I'm not matter? Okay, next picture. What about sunlight? Not the sun, but the light that it gives off. Is that matter? Okay, while you're thinking about that one, you can pause and then go on to the next one when you're ready. Okay, what about plant cells? Are plant cells a form of matter? What do you think? What about clouds? Are clouds a form of matter? This is the fourth one, I think. Okay, next slide. What about sound? Is sound a form of matter? Not the speaker, but the actual sound that you hear. Is that a form of matter? Interesting. Okay, let's go on to the next one. What about the planet Jupiter? Is Jupiter a form of matter? Interesting. Next one. What about bacteria? Are bacteria a form of matter? What do you think about that one? Interesting. Okay, next one. What about dust particles? Are dust particles a form of matter? What about heat? Not the sun, not the thermometer, but the heat. Is heat a form of matter? Okay, last one. I want you to think about any gas. I'm using oxygen as an example. Are gases in general a form of matter? What do you think? Any gas at all, is a gas a form of matter? Okay, when you're done doing that, the last thing I want you to do is answer this question. Look over the choices that you've made for the 10 different objects or 10 different things that we considered and ask yourself, the ones that you said were matter, what do they have in common? See if you can complete this sentence. Matter is anything that ... What is it that all the things that you said were matter have in common? This might be hard to do. You may be wrong about some things, and that's okay. After you've come up with that definition, watch the rest of the tutorial where I explain what is and isn't matter and why. Okay, here's the technical definition of matter. Matter is anything that has two things, mass and volume. In order to understand the definition of matter, you have to understand the definitions of mass and volume. Mass is your resistance to being moved. So if something resists being moved, it has mass. And if it takes up space, it has volume. Let's go through the different choices and see how they measure up. Let's start with me. Do I resist being moved and take up space? You bet I do. I am a form of matter. What about heat? Does heat resist being moved and take up space? Actually, no. Hot air resists being moved, and hot air takes up space, but heat itself doesn't take up any space and doesn't resist being moved. You may even have thought once in a while that you saw heat. Sometimes people think that they're seeing heat when they see what's called a heat mirage, sort of a shimmering or a waviness in the air, but that's really caused by light passing from colder air into hotter air. When that happens, it creates an optical illusion that we sometimes think of as being actual heat. But heat has no there. There's nothing to it. There's no mass and no volume to heat, so it's not matter. What about down underneath my face there? You've got those plant cells. Are they matter? Yeah, believe it or not, living things are considered matter. That's because those plant cells take up space and they don't have much resistance to motion because they're way smaller than you do, but they do resist being moved. It does take energy to move them around. So plant cells are matter. What about clouds? Clouds kind of feel like they're insubstantial and not really there, but they actually are made up of matter. Clouds are a form of liquid in mist form, and if it weren't in liquid form, you wouldn't be able to see the clouds at all. They're not actually gases, they're liquids. So they do take up space. You could fill up a container with the liquid that's in a cloud, and they do have mass. They do resist being moved, even though not very much. So clouds are matter. Jupiter definitely resists being moved, definitely takes up space. It's certainly matter. Sound, on the other hand, is not matter. Sound has to move through matter, much like heat has to also move through matter. But sound itself is not a form of matter. You can't fill something up with sound, and you don't find any resistance to motion by sound. What about light? Same deal. You can't fill something with light, and light does not resist being moved. You can make the air around you resist being moved, which is why air and oxygen and all the other gases are considered matter. Take your hand, wave it in front of your face. You can feel the air being moved by your hand and pushing back on your hand. And you could certainly fill a balloon with any gas you want to. But you can't do that with light. Light will not fill up a balloon. It doesn't take up any space. And light doesn't resist being moved around. In fact, you can't even move it around. Try pushing some light around the room and see how well that works out for you. On the other hand, dust is matter. It does take up space. It does resist being moved. Just because something doesn't take up very much space and doesn't resist being moved a lot doesn't mean it's not there altogether. It's certainly there. You'd need a lot of dust in one place to fill, say, a balloon, or for you to even notice how hard it is to move it. But it does have those two attributes. It is both able to resist motion and take up space. Same thing for bacteria. Tiny as they are, if you get enough of them in one place, they will resist being moved, and they do take up space. Okay, so your quiz will be on the definitions, the definition of matter, the definition of mass, the definition of volume, and then the other two questions will be for you to tell me whether or not the two objects I put in front of you are or are not matter. See you in class. On the other hand, the light from the sun is not matter. Interesting.